Hello and welcome. This is question 2 from our quiz, Senior Skip Day 2021. And it reads, the basic principle of note production in a horn is to set up a stationary wave in an air column. You got the mouthpiece labeled, you got the bell labeled, it's a horn. For the lowest note produced by a horn, a node is formed at the mouthpiece and the antinode is formed at the bell. The frequency of this note is 75 Hertz. What are the frequencies of the next 2 higher notes for this air column? Certain allowable frequencies. All right. So we're sort of restricted to this physical length, right? The horn isn't changing its length. And we know that the sort of the lowest frequency that we can get, the fundamental frequency, is going to be when we've got, I'll sort of draw them out right here. So the node at the mouthpiece, right? So the air, remember, moves left and right. And if there's a mouthpiece there, then the air isn't going to be sort of moving that way. The antinode at the bell, so the wave is going to kind of open up like that. So that's going to be a quarter of a wave, and we can kind of draw the waveform like this. So that's 1/4 of a wave. Just sort of in general over here, we can say, okay, waves open up and then close down and then go back down like this, like that, right? And then the standing wave sort of comes back and interferes this way. So we're looking at sort of, you know, here's 2 adjacent loops on a standing wave, kind of similar to like the first one that we did, remember? They don't show us sort of a moment later where it's going to be. These particles can only exist sort of in one place at one instant of time, right? And so sometimes we'll show sort of at the next moment, a quarter of a sort of time period or half a time period later, you know, all these particles here, all these particles here, and so on. So we're looking at like this much of the wave, right? That's the fundamental frequency, is if we just have a quarter of a wavelength. And so we know sort of here that this frequency is 75 Hertz. That's what's given. Our job is to just sort of visualize what are the next allowable frequencies that possess nodes at the mouthpiece and antinodes at the bell. And obviously we have to sort of fit more wave inside of that, right? So it's going to be higher frequencies like all the answers show, right? So we need to sort of stick with a node here. We have a fixed length between the mouthpiece and the bell. And so this time we're going to open up, but it's got to close down to another node and then open back up again. So it's sort of like we've got this type of a waveform now. And here we've got, that's our 75 Hertz. And so this is more frequently occurring because, you know, the wavelength is shorter. And so here, if this is 1/4 of a wave, this is going to be 3/4 of a wave. You could also think about it as, you know, it's more frequently occurring. And if this much is 75, then that would be 150. Well, what's 150 plus another 75? 225. And right there we found our answer, because the next highest note, in other words, the frequency of this wave would be 3 times this, or 225 Hertz. And then there's no ambiguity in sort of the answers at that point. If you incorrectly, you know, do, you know, sort of like from node to node, then you might get 150, and then you might sort of make a mistake and, you know, choose one of those. But indeed, you can get to the answer to this question just by sort of calculating the next harmonic. For good measure, we should just sort of say, okay, well then this one's going to go down, close, open up again, and sort of go like that. And so again, we get all the higher harmonics just by sort of squeezing more and more wavelengths into the same column of air, and we get higher pitched notes, right? And so this is a higher pitch than that, but only those notes would be possible to play on a horn like this. And so if this is, you know, 3 times the frequency, well, this one is what, 5/4 of a wave. And so if this was a quarter of a wave, 3/4 of a wave, here we've got 5/4 of a wave. And you see the pattern there for when we've got node, antinode, standing waves. And so 75 times 5 should give us 375, right? And so that would be the second higher note above the fundamental frequency. And so choice D is certainly correct for this.